Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only, is not intended as financial advice, especially this video because any of the trades or investments into anything I'm mentioning could result in total loss. So keep that in mind. I'm going to start every alt video with a temperature check, a gauge, okay? Full diagnostic. You can start with whatever you want. I just really like Google Trends. I think it's hilarious. I would encourage you to look at Google Trends. You can go multi-country, you can go world. It's probably most relevant to the United States, where Google has, I think, the biggest footprint. But anyway, what you can do is compare terms directly or look at things individually based on search interest over time. And, you can compare individual terms to itself or to other things. So let's take a smattering of alts, right? We got Ethereum, NFTs, Solana. Treasury Direct is an interesting one because it's basically a bond where towards the end of last year, they were offering 8% on an I bond and on an inflation bond. And this is a data point, okay? I know correlation isn't causation. I get it. But when you look at all this stuff, you can see essentially, the Bitcoin chart, the Ethereum chart on the USD pairs, where you have this double top, you have crazy NFT, FOMO interest, whatever. Interestingly enough, you do typically see, what we've seen historically, we've seen the majors move first in early Q4, Thanksgiving, into December. Majors kind of top out. And then you have, the death rattle, the dead cat, whatever you want to call it, into January, where you get people out farther on the risk curve looking for something else. Just so happen to be lining up at the end of January. And then Q1 is generally absolute trash. Q2 is really good, right? This is historically what we've seen. Really because of this, we get this Q2, Q4 seesaw. But anyway, so you have Ethereum, right, peaking in May 2021, NFTs peaking in January 22, and since then, just off a cliff completely, right? There was a little peak here, I forget why, in December. I don't know what that would have been exactly. The interesting thing is in October, you had Treasury Direct, okay, fixed income essentially eking out any crypto anything, which is kind of funny. And now, relative to, the 0 point, which is January 2020, everything's kind of just reset, right? So temperature check, we're not moving, we're not trending. If anything, we're still trending in a negative direction on some random indicators, right? This is Treasury Direct, iBond, whatever. It was just a funny data point. Some more interesting ones, Dogecoin relative to the stimulus check, right? Both are less than zero compared to where they were in 2020. Obviously, Doge, CME, all that stuff popping off in early 21. DeFi just by itself, essentially resetting to 2018. I mean, you can take this back even further if you want to go. Let's go before DeFi even existed. Still, right? Essentially zeroing out. You have to be careful if some terms are common or mean something else, right? But I think you get the point. Last one, I just want to show Coinbase as well. Just, very clearly you can see when all the hype came about in 21, end of 21, and now it's just, zeroed out effectively. So a really great gauge for retail relative to altcoins, which arguably are what retail is going to be trading, right? And if retail isn't trading them, maybe that's a sign. That's all I'm saying. TVL, again, quick temperature check from DeFi Llama. TVL just flat. As a pancake here, nothing super exciting. Now, is it unfair to include Luna in that? Probably, so you can, adjust this however you want. But there's nothing going on here, right? No one's throwing money at anything in particular. And then if we want to look at stables for fun, like I always talk about USDC, right? USDC continues to bleed, the blue line here. So the US onshore, let's call it, money into alts just isn't there. It just isn't there. So that is my lens, my gauge that I can use for everything going forward in this video and every week, really, because it's all you need to look at. Something else that's really useful and stupid simple is dominance, Bitcoin dominance. Everybody's been talking about it. Still above 50%, out of the multi-year range. Still looks fine. Nothing happens in a straight line. But again, this says alts probably not having a great time right now. We have this orange black hole vortex just sucking the liquidity out of everything because nothing else is getting an ETF at the moment, right? Distantly, I'm talking distantly, light years away is an ETH ETF, maybe eventually. If you measure this range, it also measures to a weekly cloud level, which is interesting, around 56. I hadn't really put the cloud on dominance, but it works out. So, just confirms the bias, okay? When we are at, near, or above 56, then I think alts finally start to look like they've been capitulated enough. There's been a crescendo of selling. People have thrown up their hands. They've said, I've welcomed Bitcoin in my life as my savior, okay? And that's when alts may start to turn around. That's when I'd start looking at it. Total 3, again, this is market cap minus Bitcoin, minus ETH, minus a few stablecoins, minus wrapped Bitcoin. Still very much ranging. This could morph into triple bottom. This could just continue ranging forever, the rest of your life, right? I don't know, but I don't care about it until it's above or below the range. When it's below the range, it starts to get interesting because that's when we start to see capitulation type behavior, or that's likely when we'll see capitulation type behavior. And if we start to get above 300 billion, that's when, for me, I'm comfortable rotating, right? I'd rather not catch knives in Goblin Town, but I've been known to catch a few knives in Goblin Town. I'm maybe one of the few people who's ever made money on Zcash as a trade. I'll talk about that in a minute, but there are times to go knife shopping in Goblin Town. We're not there yet, I don't think. Another great metric is DEX volume. I'll put all the links for this in the description below. Just a really simple website for this, so you don't have to go into Dune and search for it if you don't want to. But again, DEX volume, right? The pink here is Uniswap. DEX volume, just basically like the Google Trends show you, we're not zeroed out, but we are diminished compared to where we were. And my guess is most of this probably bots anyway. Let's be real here. Sorry, DeFi people. Uniswap is most of this pie. 1-inch curve. 0x is basically matcha, I believe. Balancer, a few others. But someone was asking me about DEXs. Uniswap's going to have the most liquidity, so that may be the best place to trade. It's not a recommendation. If I was trading on a DEX, I would probably do it on matcha. Here's just a random trade. I was just looking at trading Tether for trading ETH for Tether Gold. There's a fee here, blah, 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 right? It's pretty straightforward. They have, that's my wallet, but they have a ton of stuff, right? And you can see your wallet, you can multi-chain. Again, not a recommendation, but it's a place to trade if you want. That's where I'd go. It's simple, it's easy, it's quick. Curve, obviously, just a behemoth. I view this as more of a place to trade stables, between stables, but I'm sure there are people who use it to do all sorts of fun stuff, right? I had another question about privacy coins last week. So let's talk about privacy coins. The problem with privacy coins is they need end-to-end encryption. They need essentially what amounts to be a type of mixer. In Monero's case, you need to anonymize all of the data. In Dash's case, in Zcash's case, in Decred's case, probably Digibyte as well, you've got opt-in privacy. The problem with opt-in privacy is exchanges will not turn this on. As far as I know, the places that list this, Kraken, Gemini, in the US, I don't think it's on Coinbase at all, any of these, but you are unable to turn on that privacy component because it obfuscates KYC AML. So if you see a privacy coin, in air quotes, listed on a centralized exchange, chain analysts are likely able to de-anonymize those transactions, and at that point, is it privacy coin at all, right? That's my argument. You can say it's flawed, I get it, but that's my argument. The other issue is, from a legal perspective, again, if we're obfuscating KYC AML, there's less likelihood for those coins to be listed on regulated exchanges because regulators go after that, right? We've seen this all over the world, South Korea, United States, Europe, where they just get delisted entirely, So that's my fear for Monero. As much as I love Monero, the issue is if you can't buy it anywhere, that's a problem, right? If you can't trade it, that's a problem. So without the inflows or the ability to trade it, and I'm sure there's some sort of Monero DEX and blah, 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 right? There's always some parking lot story. I get it. But if it's not widely available, that is going to hurt price. That's a fact. So I'd keep that in mind with any of these privacy coins. So let's get into some charts here on Monero USD on the left, BTC pairs on the right. So there are a few alts that have this bottomy pattern to them, right? Maybe this is an ascending triangle, maybe this is a inverted head and shoulders, whatever. It's a mess. It doesn't really matter. It's a high time frame. I'm just looking at the cloud mainly. And Monero does have a history of having decent runs on the USD pair above high time frame cloud. For most alts against BTC, however, it's just been nothing but doom, nothing but death, misery, despair, fiery damnation for many, many years. Okay. So to me, much like the total 3 chart, right? If we're in the middle of a range, that is not something I'm looking to sit in for an extended period of time. So I ask myself, do I want to sell BTC for Monero here? I do not. Okay, look at the chart. Is this trending? No. Is it heavily ranging and has been for years? Yeah. Again, you don't have to like the chart, okay? If you like Monero, I'm not going to stop you. If you think Monero's a better Bitcoin, amazing. I'm just here looking at the chart, okay? And it does not look bullish for Monero against BTC. Dash. Another quick note about volume and exchanges. Okay, this is on Poloniex. Poloniex used to be king of the hill as far as volume is concerned. If you turn on volume for this, these days, volume is essentially zeroed out. It's flat, right? So you do have to know where to look, when to look at volume. You know, you have to have some knowledge of that. I like to use Poloniex because they have the price history of back in the early days, right? 2015. And again, Dash on the USD pair, it's essentially at multi-year lows, ranging, bearish cloud for a couple of years. This is nothing I want to touch. I just don't, right? You know, if you see a multi-year range and you see price moving above that range, that to me is where I get excited. This is not exciting. Massive ignore on my part. Dash BTC, what an amazing chart, right? This is back since 2014. Now, in 2016, 2017, I talked about this ascending triangle, which did end up breaking up, which all of you now know because you watched my pattern video from yesterday. But since that time, this chart has been down only for years, right? 2017 to present, down only. Rarely above the 3-day cloud. Why, right? What redeeming qualities are there here to trade? You know, if you want to trade falling wedges, bull divs, sure, I guess. But this thing looks like misery personified, okay? No thanks. And really, until it's out of this bearish channel, massive ignore from me. Zcash, house favorite. Okay, this one has had a series of, on the USD pair, series of triple tops, head and shoulders, whatever you want to call them over the years. You know, pretty crazy. Double bottom, W double bottom. But now, again, it's in this bearish channel. Okay, I just don't care. It's been below the cloud for years. I don't care. No thanks. You know, when you apply some sort of trend metrics to these charts on high time frames, it should become pretty obvious what's going on. This is Zcash BTC. Again, started off with a head and shoulders, and it's just been down, more down, consolidated, more down. There's been a series of interesting patterns, multi-year equilateral triangle that led to bearish continuation. This, I think, somewhere in here is where I traded Zcash for a profit, you know, in this falling wedge region. You had a TKC clamp on the cloud, you had a bull div on RSI, and you had the chart pattern. Here, you don't have a bull div, you do have a TKC clamp forming, and I wouldn't argue a chart pattern just yet. So, again, I think this needs more time. I think this needs to get more oversold before anything exciting happens. And it's definitely not a buy and hold. Just look at the history, right? That's just me. DCR, Decred. Now, I can't tell you the number of maxis who were so bullish on Decred a few years ago. It was a better Bitcoin, it had privacy, blah, 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 blah. You don't hear anything about Decred anymore. At least I don't. Never a good sign, much like ETH-BTC, where we reach some historic price and double top again, or we make a bearish reversal pattern again. In this case, you could probably argue descending triangle, but you know, since mid 2021, below the cloud. This is the 3-day cloud. No bull div on this. Potentially a multi-year falling wedge? Question mark. I don't really know, but probably revisits those lows sometime, right, between 7 and 11. And if it doesn't bounce there, right, what else does it have? Nothing. So this is a knife that might just go through your hand as you're trying to catch it. I'm not saying it can't bounce, but again, the cloud is your friend, okay? I'm trying to orange pill you, I'm trying to cloud pill you, because when this thing is ready, it will tell you, right? Look at the one time it had a bullish cloud breakout on a 3-day. Just grinding, 2018, 2019, 2020. Finally, 2021, everyone becomes a DCR maxi, right? And has a nice little run. We're not there yet. DCR BTC, same thing. Why, right? Here's some volume for you on Poloniex. You just can't look at volume seriously on Poloniex anymore, unfortunately. Really, you'd have to go, you know, to Binance for some of these to look at volume, which is a scary proposition, but either there or Kraken, Coinbase, that sort of thing. Here they have some data missing where it just goes flat, right? head and shoulders, diamond top, straight up, straight down, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Not really a div here, just quite a mess all around, honestly. And here's DCR BTC, again, not above the 3-day cloud. You know, pick whatever you want as a trend metric. I'm guessing it doesn't look great here. It does have a bit of a bull div, so it's kind of interesting as a knife catch. Bit of a, you know, parabolic puke to the downside. This is Binance here where you can see volume maybe a little more clearly. That's not something I'm, you know, jumping to trade. And here's that diamond on candles, just to take a mental picture of when you start to see, you know, bouncing volatility like this, that sort of pinching. It does help clue you in that, okay, this might actually be a diamond and this might reverse, because in the moment, this thing, you know, it could be a bunch of stuff, but I think this qualifies as a diamond, and volume's kind of all over the place. But anyway, straight up, straight down, right? Diamond top reversal all day. I want to look at Stellar randomly because much like Monero, again, not a privacy coin at all, but it is ranging. Some of the stuff looks okay, right? Focus on that stuff. That's my opinion, not financial advice. It's been down for years, starting to consolidate sideways, perhaps has a run above the cloud here. BTC chart doesn't exactly look super exciting. Last week, Andrew, we'll call him Andrew, called me out. He said, I look at too many Dino coins. Now, I don't want to give Andrew crap for this. I'm just saying, if you want me to look at something, just let me know. He said it's not 2017 anymore. He's correct. But this is kind of my biggest problem with alts. You know, if you basically have to trade them for a month and then forget about them the rest of your life, because that stuff ain't coming back. Sorry. So let me take a look at some of these OP and most of this other stuff I don't even want to give attention to, especially that one right there. But BCH was listed on one of the institutional exchanges, EDX, which is probably why it had the move that it had. I would argue, now I hadn't been looking at Bcash, but I would argue that it was setting itself up for a move with this year-long just grind sideways consolidation, right? Much like GME, you know, let me pull that up for a second. If you look at GME, you know, you could say it was all sorts of things, right? It was a short squeeze, it was stimulus, it was Reddit, it was Wall Street Bets, whatever. But the table needs to be set for something like that to happen. That's my argument. And so no matter what kind of trash it is, right? And again, look at the 3-day cloud here. No matter what kind of trash this is, the table needs to be set in order to have a positive effect. You know, that's my thinking on the matter anyway, right? This thing had years of Zcash-like behavior below the cloud, just nothing but down, finally consolidates, I'd argue, in some sort of, you know, triple bottom, call it whatever you want, I don't care. I just call it head and shoulders because it's easier. Starts to break out above the 3-day cloud, and, you know, events and stuff happens. So it does not surprise me that something like Bcash, although worthless, is able to make a move because it's listed on an exchange, okay? And then the BCH BTC pair, you know, I guess you could argue it's above a bear channel, but I just don't think it has lasting potential. So I'd avoid it. And when I start to see stuff like this, on lower time frames, this like Reaper, Sigh, Sickle type shape, banana, whatever you want to call it, you know, this may act as a falling wedge and pop up here. But to me, this signals that you have just TWAP selling, slow grind down, you know, non-belief in this thing actually holding this price. And many times we just see just puke, right? So I don't trust it personally. Solana. Solana's an interesting one. Tons and tons of baggage with FTX, with the creditor committees, blah, 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 blah. I'm certainly not bullish on Solana from a fundamental perspective where they have to get on a Discord and reset validators, right? That's not exactly the place I want to be. From a cryptocurrency perspective, chart-wise, you could argue a year-long attempt at a bottom. This is going to be punctuated by all sorts of news events going forward. But if this thing can get above, let's say 20, hold 20, 21, 22, something like that. When the entire market turns a corner, we may see Solana go for a run. So something worth watching if you're interested in trading that. Against Bitcoin, again, it's been down only. Sorry, guys. The cloud tells no secrets, and it's pretty simple. The only time, ironically, the only time it attempted a real deal cloud breakout was the day before FTX blew up. So for this one thing you could do is just set an alert on the cloud and forget about it, right? Because why? Why even give it brain space or attention? Solana reminds me a lot of EOS. EOS had this massive non-ICO ICO campaign. I sat through the Brendan Bloomer pitch live a couple times, right? We were going to put Uber on this thing, Lyft on this thing. We were going to make DEXs and all this other fun stuff. And yeah, here we are today. Not much, right? I don't really hear anybody talking about EOS anywhere. Not to say Solana's headed for the same fate, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case 5 years from now, where we're on to, the next thing, Aptos or Sui or whatever, right? Whatever we're talking about. And against the BTC pair, again, it's just, this is why you don't hold alts over the long term, because you will get diluted into oblivion and no one will be there to save you. Sorry. EOS BTC, I believe, all-time lows here. No bull div either. So here again, you get this parabolic puke to the downside, right? Never a good sign. And you see this on EOS a few times. It'll consolidate maybe, and then have another run lower, right? Maybe a megaphone in here that broke down as well. So all sorts of fun stuff, head and shoulders over there. Comp was on, I'll call him Andrew's list, which I hadn't seen, which I was surprised that didn't see anybody talking about this. Comp has done well, but again, like GME, that's just where my head's at, right? This thing had a year of consolidation. Didn't have a year of continued lows. It had a year of consolidation. The table was set for a move. Looks decently okay for an attempt above the 3-day cloud, right? You could argue triple bottom, inverted head and shoulders, whatever. Certainly a volume coming back. That's a great sign. It's on Binance. So this chart looks okay, right? Even comp BTC starting to look maybe like something Josh would want to trade, but we're not quite there yet. And I wasn't sure if this was a real world asset announcement related or not. Andrew can tell me in the comments, because I don't remember seeing anything about it, but it could be why that's happening. With any of this DeFi stuff, you got to be careful with the regulatory implications potentially coming down the pipe in the US, because that could just end the entire market in the US effectively. This is Curve. Now Curve hasn't moved yet. Looked like comp looked before it moved. Still looks decently. You can make a case for a triple bottom here. But again, the cloud will tell you when it's ready. Maybe it's above $1, right? Set an alert at $1. Start your engines and off you go. A nice little Adam and Eve there. Another Adam and Eve there. But this looks okay. It doesn't look terrible. So I like to look for, charts that look like comp before they move out, maybe in the same sector headspace of people, right? Because people are going to be thinking, oh, I missed comp. What's the next one? Maybe it's Curve. I don't know. Curve BTC just looks, multi-year sideways nonsense. Who cares, right? Hasn't really done anything since inception, since listing. Lastly, I'll just talk about OP. I think this is the right one. I could be the wrong one. Optimism. I think it's the right one. This is on the BTC pair. Just, why? Why are we trading this, guys? Come on. What's the point? You're just hemorrhaging money constantly. Now, this does have a decent case for falling wedge, bull div. I would be careful here on this lower time frame stuff. Head and shoulders at the bottom of a range. Be careful. So I'm certainly not touching it, but it is an interesting one to watch. I do like how clean this downtrend's been. When it's clean like this, when it finally flattens out, right, then it gives you a decent shot at an actual trade. Here you had a nice, ascending triangle cloud breakout. That's the type of stuff where you're watching it for months and weeks. You know exactly where you think it's going to go, and you make the trade, right? Here, I don't know. This looks like you just keep falling to zero forever. Nothing really redeeming about it. USD pair also just a mess, right? So after that uplifting video, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I missing something? Something you want me to talk about? Should I be more bullish on alts here? Let me know. Dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Happy trading.